All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call this Johnson County Council meeting to order on this Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 6 o'clock p.m. Amy, will you please take roll call? Here.
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 Present.
Here. Present.
Please pray with us if you care to, and then we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessing of this day. Guide our thoughts, guard our hearts, and lead our steps closer to you. May our lives reflect your love, our words speak truth, and our actions honor you today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I do have a couple of amendments for tonight's agenda, if you would indulge me. Under routine matters, we need to add a request from the Veterans Affairs. It's amount of $20.26, and it's a transfer from travel and training to overtime. And the other amendment we need to make to tonight's agenda is for community, let me make sure. Juvenile community corrections, yes. We need to amend item C3 to be C3A, and it's a transfer request. The dollars amount were incorrect, so those have been fixed. And then add item 3B, and it is a transfer request also. If you would care to make a motion for that, those changes.
Move to approve as amended.
I have a motion from John Dittmers and a second from Ron Bates. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, it is time for public comments. These comments must be related to agenda items only. And we ask that you limit those comments to 5 minutes per person. Hearing none, we will close the public comments portion of this meeting. On to routine matters, consent agenda. By a single motion, the board approves the following items, which may include salary ordinance amendments, additional appropriations, reductions, and transfers. Any items listed on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member and moved to the regular agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve item B consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion from Pam Burton to approve routine matters consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Second by John Mallers. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up, salary ordinance amendments, additional appropriations, reductions and transfers. C1, Vasia guardianship fees, travel and training.
Hello, Lauren Ryan-Harrison, Vasia Director. And I am back to appropriate the guardianship fee funds for travel and training. If you guys are ready, if you changed the travel and training rules. We held off a couple months and I was told to come back tonight.
Right. Well, we do appreciate that. That was all a timing issue with had to do with an advertising of an agenda and some other things.
Yeah.
So thank you for your patience. We do appreciate that. Lauren, could you maybe describe to us, because I know you and I have shared emails back and forth, but not everyone is aware. So for the Vasia guardianship that you are in charge of,
Mhm.
you have two forms of revenue. One is grant money and one is fee fund.
Yes.
Could you talk to us about the travel and training amounts that you have in your grant funds?
Yes, and I have it all listed out. Am I allowed to hand it? to you?
Absolutely. We love visual aids.
It's very confusing.
Thank you. And do you have one for Taylor as well? Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so with our state Vasia grant, we were approved for 2026 for travel and training, $4,690.
Okay.
And any expenses exceeding that amount is to be paid out of our guardianship fee fund. That fund is money that we make off of our guardianship cases.
Okay.
Month to month, it just depends on how many cases we have and the type of cases. Typically, we have Medicaid clients, we get $35 a month. We do have some clients that have a large amount of assets and we can charge $100 an hour.
Okay.
But it just depends on what we have.
Okay. So so what you're saying is you have a grant fee or a grant fund of $4,600, almost $4,700 for travel and training. And then your request tonight is for an additional $5,000 out of the guardianship fee fund that you
Correct.
just described.
Yes.
So is the 4,600 gone? You've used that already for something else?
It's not completely gone. Got it written out here. So after paying for the event registration in Washington, DC and the hotel, I will have $1,907.83 left. I still have to buy my airline tickets. I have no idea how much that will cost, just one ticket, but and then I will need money left over for mileage for when we go to our clients on a monthly basis.
Okay, so part of this money will be retained to keep the program going and
Yes.
not just for the travel and training.
Yes, but next year when I apply for my state grant, I will be able to put all of this verbiage in with the grant saying that we're going to need more travel and training funds allocated for this moving forward.
Do you know what you spent maybe last year on travel and training? Do you know?
It's probably around the same. I don't know on the top of my head, but it's usually pretty much the same. It might have been a little bit more because we had a few more people go with us last year for the conference. But it's just me this year.
Was that one out of state as well?
Yes, yeah.
And are these state mandated that you go for these, or is this just something you choose to do?
So for a Vasia program, the director has to be a nationally certified guardian, and you have to keep up on your CEUs, which this conference covers most of them. For this year, I am a part of the Leadership National Guardianship Association group that I was picked for, and our graduation is during that conference. So I'll be doing both.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Well, I had a question though, but does the state require you to go?
They don't require you to go, but they highly encourage the director, the assistant director, and your volunteers.
How many volunteers have gone in the past?
In the past, only one.
So would it be fair to say that some people that go to this conference pay for this trip out of their own funds?
Every program in Indiana is very different. I know that our grant fund, the state allows for that money to go towards volunteers and staff to go towards this conference. You just don't know how much you're going to get once you get the grant. And the timing is always off with our budget season in receiving that grant.
I guess I'm a little concerned because I feel like, especially if it's in Washington DC, that perhaps maybe it might be more fair if maybe you paid half and then the county paid the other half. Since it's not required to go.
How do you anticipate gaining from these conferences?
What do I anticipate like getting from it?
Gaining, like,
Yeah.
what's gonna be your, takeaway, and how's that gonna help?
New guardianship laws,
Yeah.
how a BOSIA program can accommodate those. Since every program's different and depending on what judge you work for and what they're willing to do.
So these are state laws or federal laws, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Like I was telling Michelle earlier, I kind of relate this to the Association of Indiana Counties, the conferences and things that they have, those are not state mandated. But they are probably some of the most beneficial conferences that any of us have been to.
Mhm.
So I do understand the need to participate as long as it's reasonable. So thank you for your information.
Yeah.
I think, too, Lauren, you and I, kind of mentioned that there, this is gonna be a tough budget year for everybody.
Mhm.
And, because most of our funds our revenue's not keeping up with our expenses. And one thing I think this council will start looking at are fee funds. And, using some of those fee funds to reimburse the general fund for salaries. And I think that the two, salaried staff members in your office both come out of the general fund.
Correct.
Do you anticipate a world where you wouldn't need all this travel and training and some of that could be transferred into the general to help offset some of those expenses?
I don't know. I couldn't give an exact amount. It would just depend on whatever we receive from the grant. And whenever we find out that determination in December, each year. Yeah, and that's why we try to make money off of cases. Like, we're not here to make a profit, but we do want to try to retain some money to
Mhm.
have, extra, just in case the grant, goes away one day or something comes about. But with our state VASIA grant, it is required that we have a 50% match for that grant to continue.
Okay.
So the salary goes up towards that 50% match.
Gotcha. For the entire program.
Correct.
I guess I'm feeling that since there's some personal gain out of this trip, that you get your continuing education covered, that it would be fair to the taxpayers if you put some personal funds towards the trip, even as a token, a gesture toward the taxpayers, because we've all experienced the economy too, and I know this is the 250th anniversary of your country, and I know Washington DC hotels. I know because I've gone out and priced them. They're a whole lot more expensive this year, especially over the summer. So that's my take on it. I just think it would be fair if you contributed as well.
If there's no more conversation, President, I'll make a motion to approve item C1 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Pam Burton and a second by Ron Bates. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1. Thank you, Lauren.
And when you're doing that grant next year, and I know it's a 50-50 match, but if there's any way to squeeze any of that money out to get back to the general fund, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, look for those discussions at budget time. It's coming, everyone. Up next, Community Corrections, C2.
Hello, Damon Cox, Assistant Director for Juvenile Community Corrections, here for a couple different reasons. One is for an additional appropriation into a part-time line, but to pay for that out of a previous fee collection fund rather than requesting additional funds from our 1001 general fund line.
So could you explain that to me just for a little bit, Damon? Because I kind of got a little confused. This is for the part-time help that you already have,
Correct.
and the general fund was paying for that?
It was paying for a portion, so
Okay,
we use general fund to pay for a portion, and then we use part of our DOC grant to pay for another portion. So we use all the DOC monies, and then once those run out, then we go to the general fund. And then our DOC grant runs on a July 1 to June 30, so I still need to cover a few months going into July. And then just want to make sure that if the hours and referrals continue, that we have money to go through the remainder of the year as well.
okay, and this money is coming out of a fee fund?
That's correct. Previously, we assessed fees for our programs. We don't anymore because we are able to obtain additional grants from the state for not charging fees. So it's just money that we ended up getting a grant, so it boosted that cash balance of that fund
And spend
up
it down.
pretty high, so we can start using it to spend it down.
Thank you. We appreciate that. That's gonna help. We can go ahead and take C3 at the same time, don't you think, Amy? Yeah. Yep. You want to go ahead and talk to us about C3? Because I think it all kind of is close.
Yep, same thing, well, similar thing. It's just a transfer so that we can spend down a grant down to the smallest amount possible, to make sure that we can give back as little as possible.
I think, Amy, do we need Damon to read into the record the new numbers for that? That was we amended some of that. Nope, it's all, you've got it. That makes it easier for us.
I was ready.
Okay, good.
And I want to point out, thank you for this work, because this is the stuff that falls through the cracks later on down the road that we've talked about for these grants and things. So,
Right,
yeah, thank you for,
yeah, get in front of it, yeah.
right.
I don't have any more questions. Anyone else? I would be ready to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for item 3.
3A and B.
Yes, 3A and B. I'm sorry, it's on C under item
2.
2, and then 3A and B as amended.
Second.
I have a motion from Pam Burton, a second from Ron Bates. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to the other business portion of our agenda. D1, approval of ordinance 2026-06, an ordinance of the Johnson County Council regarding an additional appropriation by White River Township Fire Protection District. This is for capital equipment, $320,343.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm Jeremy Pell, Chief of White River Township Fire Department, and this is Benjamin Rager. He is the district's accountant. And I'm asking for additional appropriation to purchase an ambulance for the district. And the background in this is that this was budgeted in 2025. And if you followed the fire equipment market at all, you'll realize it is not a very good market right now. It's taking 2 to 3 years to take delivery of vehicles, and what vendors are doing is they're upcharging. They're signing a contract and they're saying each annual increase, even though we've got a set price, the district's going to have to pay those increases. I was not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with doing business as usual. So rather than force us into a budget year, even though it was already appropriated in 2025, we essentially looked for a better deal. So we ended up finding a demo ambulance that saves the district $50,000. It's available right now. So we're not going to have upcharges on inflation and cost increases. We're not going to have the 2-year delay. We've been very efficient with how we've purchased equipment. We had the federal government pay for one during COVID. We bought used vehicles, demo vehicles. We're getting away from the traditional just spec whatever we want and pay whatever it costs. We are looking for better deals. This is an opportunity for the taxpayers to save $50,000 and replace a piece of equipment that's going to have to be replaced anyway. So I would ask that you approve this additional appropriation, and strongly based on the fact that it was approved last year.
Any questions for Mr. Pell?
Thanks for being here. I appreciate it very much. And I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm just trying to understand. And as Michelle, mentioned earlier, we got a real reality check with Mike Reuter here, and we are hemorrhaging cash balance. And we've got to do something about it. And that means everywhere. That means it's going to be difficult for this council to try to figure this out. We just talk about little things that come up here and there. It's another thing that we're going to have to try to fix. And it's not just going to be this council, it's going to be every unit. And so I got your information, and let me get back to it if you don't mind. Some of the notes in the discussion that you had with our president last week. You mentioned that there are, first of all, if you buy this new ambulance, where is it going?
It'll become a frontline ambulance, and then the oldest one will roll down.
So it'll like go to, I don't know, 52,
Yeah.
and then that one
I think it's
will become, whichever one, and that one will become a reserve.
Right.
Okay. Now of the 4 reserve ambulances that you have now that you mentioned here, do they all work? Are they all in good working order?
Well, they are, but I want to clarify. I want to
Okay.
clarify on the numbers. We have 2 ambulances that are 10 years old that we take out of the equation because we're selling them. We kept them because of the instability with private ambulance services in this county. And the difficulty is in buying an ambulance and putting it in service. It will not happen. If a private service backs out, their contract says 60 days notice and they're out of here. So the White River Township Fire Protection District we essentially mothballed 2 10-year-old ambulances, set them aside, and said, if that's the barrier and a private ambulance service backs out, we'll lease it for X number of dollars per year to another department. They can staff it with their own people. The reason that protects White River Township Fire Protection District is because the minute an ambulance closes, the CAD system is automatically calling us and taking away from our community. So our taxpayers paid for this. It's in our cash balance. I wanted to maintain it. So that gets to your question is,
Okay.
what do we have? We have 3 frontline and we have 2 reserves. And you need 2 reserves if you have 3 frontline ambulances. Those ambulances do a total of about 3,500 runs a year. So 10 runs a day. If you have one out getting the oil changed and one gets rear-ended, you got to have, this is mission critical. You have to have 2 to put in its place. So the model is 3 frontline and 2 reserves.
So the 2 that are mothballed would be used if necessary, if like Greenwood lost their provider.
Yes, that is the reason that we kept them.
So they could be used in that regard. They were usable in that regard.
I would not rely on them as a front line. They're usable in that regard temporarily until another unit is able to provide for themselves.
Okay.
It would be the equivalent of either renting a car or taking your old everyday weekend driver and trying to drive it to work every day.
All right. And then of the 2 reserves that you do like, or no, that's stupid. Of the 2 reserves that are in use, is one of them is the 2020 one you talked about that's
Yep.
going to get remounted.
Yeah.
Or it could get remounted. And if it got remounted, then it would be good for 7 years.
I actually have more information about that
Okay.
because we talked about this as a staff and I misunderstood one very, very important element. And that is with these ambulances, the model is to run it frontline for 7 years, move it to reserve for 7 years without doing anything to it. And then at the end of 14 years, remount it. And I told both of you that incorrectly. I was 1 remount ahead. So that swings it tremendously. And that's an example of an efficient model we're going to use it 14 years. 7 as a primary, 7 as a reserve, and then we'll send it in to remount it instead of buying a brand new one, which will save between 25 and 50% of the cost of an ambulance.
I'm sorry, I guess I didn't follow that. So this 2021, say that again, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The
life-
2021 that we're talking
The
about.
life cycle of the ambulances are 7 years as a frontline,
Okay,
and then 7 years as a reserve. And then at the end of that 14 years, we send it out to get rechassied. So this fits our replacement cycle. This 2020 will roll down to be a reserve, and the new one that we're asking for the appropriation will be a frontline.
so the 2020 won't get remounted for
No.
another 7 or 8 years.
Exactly, exactly. And that was just a communication thing on my part.
But, so why is this 2020 a reserve? Why can't it be? I mean, is it newer than the one that the new one would replace at whatever other? At whatever station, you're wanting to buy the new one for 320, it's gonna replace something at one of the stations. Is the 2021, if it's still in its non-reserve, it's still in its frontline status, it's not 7 years yet. Is that not workable or usable at the other station in place of the old one that's there? Does that make any sense?
It does make sense. So the three front lines are a 2020, a 2023, and a 2024.
Okay,
And we chose 7 years based on our community. 7 years puts about 100,000 miles on that truck. You have to consider how often it's out of service, how much it costs to fix, and how quickly it goes downhill. I would not recommend keeping that 2020 in service, because if we get too far behind, we're not going to save $50,000 on an ambulance. We're going to pay a premium, and it's going to take 2 years to get it. So the answer to your question is 2026 is the time to replace a 2020, so that you have time to pay cash for it out of a cash reserve and not pay finance fees, that you can get it in a timely manner, have it in service before the 2020 really starts failing.
okay. Let's see, what other questions I have? Now the other reserve, what can you tell me about that one?
It is similar to the rest of our fleet. It's a 2019. So when we bought the last one, it rolled down to reserve status.
And you're wanting to sell that one too?
No, no. We want to sell the two oldest ones.
Okay.
So if
So then if you got a new ambulance.
well, we will eventually have one more to sell. The model is, again, I'm keeping it, I'm starting simple, and I'll get as detailed as you want with it. But the model, to be efficient, is to have a vehicle rotation cycle so that you don't get stuck buying 3 in 1 year.
No, I get
In
it.
1 year.
I get that.
And then the 7 years is reserve, keeping the whole thing for 21 years, 3 frontline and 2 reserves.
5
And-
total.
5 total. And for simplicity's sake, when we get one in service and we end up with 6, we'll sell the 6th one. We'll sell the 6th one. I think there should be some consideration to making sure, since we use them so long and get so little money out of these, we'll probably get $25,000 a piece out of an ambulance when it gets sold. That there should be consideration to us or another department keeping it in reserve. Because if we have a natural disaster, we have one getting a wreck, we're in a big jam. You can't go rent one like you can a car. And we've got a lot of smaller departments in the county that their ambulances are in a lot worse shape than ours. Shoot, we essentially indefinitely leased a fire engine to Nineveh Township Fire Department and saved the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that was one that we bought as a reserve. So I'm glad to sell them. But I don't want to get hyper-focused on disposing something and getting pennies on the dollar and then turning around and find out, gosh, I wish we would have had that because another department lost a motor out of theirs.
Now, what is wrong with, say, taking the 2020 and remounting it now and using that as a newer one or as a frontline one? Or if it's remounted, does that not make it then a frontline one, or does it not? Because remounting, in my limited understanding and memory from being there, is kind of a total redo of the thing. And does remounting make it where it could be a frontline one then again?
Yes.
I
It
was,
does.
that was what I was wondering is, could you remount the 2021 and then use that as the frontline one? Or is that,
Yeah,
maybe that's stupid, but I
No,
just,
it's-
no, I'm asking.
no, it's not. The answer is yes, and it's not stupid. But this is a very well thought out plan, and that box that you have to reuse, you're going to accelerate that whole program because now instead of now it's taking 10 runs a day for 14 years. You probably won't get that. You probably won't get the 21 years out of it.
Okay.
So our trucks, we're looking at the long haul, and we roll it down to a reserve for that 7 years. And instead of going out 10 years, 10 times a day and putting 100,000 miles on that box itself, we're essentially preserving its life by making it a standby.
Okay.
And that's how we're getting, that's how we're going to get 21 years out. I'm not going to be here 21 years now from now. But I have set up the system so that we can have a nice ambulance for 7, take a little wear and tear out of it for the next 7 without doing anything to it, and then come back here and the next fire chief say, hey, this truck's 14 years old, so you're going to replace it, correct? No, we're not even going to replace it. We're going to send it in, check the wiring, check the welds, put a fresh coat of paint on it, and put a new chassis underneath it.
Okay. Now the new ambulance, the 320,000 one, what does that include? Does that include what's the thing, the lift deal that with the?
We have budgeted for the power cot and the power load system separately. And for those of you that aren't quite as familiar as Councilmember Mallers, we have driven down our back injuries to almost 0 because we've got a cot that has a battery similar to your power tools, and you push a button and it lifts the patient, and you put it in the back of the ambulance and you get the front wheels on the ambulance and you push a button and it pulls that cot in. Where in the past we have a couple people struggling to get a patient in.
So that's not in the 320.
It's not,
that's
no, it's not in
above
this,
that.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's already in our budget.
And how much are those generally?
About $60,000 for the pair.
Okay.
No.
All right. The last question was hypothetically, the ambulance is not approved tonight. Can you still provide adequate community service
Yes,
without that ambulance?
yes.
How much are you saving if you do it this year versus next year? I mean, what are you noticing with the pricing?
We're gonna save $75,000 because we're legitimately saving $50,000 on this truck. I compared it to the cooperative bidding process, similar to GSA. I looked at the 2023 that we bought that we spent $319,000 on. We're looking at about 5% a year increase. So we're not going to save $50,000. We'll save the cost of the ambulance will go up another 5% on top of this year, and it will still have the same conversation. These are not done for luxury. These are done because 10 times a day somebody's sick and miserable and hurt, and they need a decent ride to the hospital. So, and that's best case scenario. But worst case scenario is the delivery time's 2 more years. So you buy it in 2027, it's not delivered until 2029, and you've got 2 more years of 5% increases.
Is this new one a diesel or is it gas?
No, it's gas. And all the comparisons I've given you are like for like, identical spec to identical spec. It is about, I looked at the cooperative purchasing. You can go buy off of somebody else's bid and it says you do this and it'll cost you this much. If you put a diesel motor in it, it costs you $9,800 to put a diesel motor in it. We decided to go with gas, not just because of cost, but because of emissions. The diesel motors have these regen systems on them and the DEF that you have to put in it, which it costs money. The maintenance of it costs money, and without warning, it stops and it goes into limp mode. And now you can only drive I think it's 40 miles an hour, 40 or 45 miles an hour. So the gas is tried and true. We're not going to have those kind of maintenance problems with it.
Okay, thank you.
This whole system, this whole thing that we've done with EMS, and you talked about fee-based systems a little earlier in the meeting, we're bringing in $2 million a year. So of all the disciplines that government does, arguably the safety of the citizenry is the most important because people won't move here if they're not safe. And EMS just darn near pays for itself. It's bringing in $2 million to staff 3 ambulances. And I love being a firefighter, but we're not charging by the call. We're not charging for false alarms. And
I understand it. And like I said earlier, and like the president has said, we are in what you call it?
Turbulent time.
Turbulent
Yeah.
times, and we are just looking at everything. It's nothing
Yeah.
personal. We're looking at everything,
Yeah.
and we just want to make sure everything is justifiable.
Yep.
Good questions.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah, and it's very reasonable. Wyatt Township Fire Protection District has a good story to tell. We're very good at what we do. And
You don't have to tell me that.
we are, I'm sorry, what?
You don't have to tell me that.
Oh, and I think it's in our heart for serving other people and giving them the very best. And I think it's in the realization that I'm using somebody else's money and I'm not going to use it any more frivolously than I would the Pell household. We don't like taking out loans. We don't drive brand new fancy cars. We make them last as long as we possibly can. That's how I run a fire department.
Well, thank you. That was great information, great questions.
Mhm.
Is there anything else for Mr. Pell? If not, I'll entertain a motion if anyone is so inclined.
I'd move to approve as presented.
I have a motion from John Dittmers,
Second.
second by Ron Bates. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to tell our story.
Item D2, and D3. Is anyone here representing Roy Umbarger and Sons Incorporated? Anyone online for Roy Umbarger and Sons Incorporated?
Madam President, I think we can probably proceed with all of these compliance forms because my opinion, they all meet the criteria of the SB1 and are consistent with what, if they don't exceed posing the SB1, they at least meet the standard.
Taylor, do you know if we're required to have someone present to before we can approve these? All we're doing tonight is approving the CF1, the annual compliance form. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is just their annual report. I mean, you previously approved of the abatement as they presented it, and this is just them exhibiting their compliance with what they told you they were going to do in the beginning.
And that compliance is still come through the auditor's office to make sure that everything that is required for year end is on that CF1 report, correct? So by the time it gets here, it's already been scrutinized and basically approved by the auditor's office that you've gotten everything you needed, right?
Designated body comes at first, then it comes to auditor's office. It's just weird because it's county.
But you're the first one that lay eyes on it, and if there is a red flag that needs to be thrown, it's usually thrown there before it ever gets here, correct? Okay.
I just would have liked to have asked, the question, has this company complied with all the requirements for receiving this abatement, such as employment levels, etc. Do you know for a fact that they have, John?
Yeah, it's on the form. The employment numbers and the amount of the investment.
Right.
is-
Match what they said they would.
Match or exceed. It's
And
not uncommon, not to interrupt, but it's not uncommon. It's more common to have someone come if they're out of compliance
Then, yeah.
Well, nevertheless, I prefer to see them here, although I'm fully in support of this. I think we ought to make it mandatory in the future that anybody who comes to the council to ask the taxpayers to help subsidize employment costs, that they should be here. I mean, it just feels like it's the right thing to do is to be here. So, but I'm willing to go ahead and approve this today. I just think we need to make it mandatory that going forward that they are here.
If that's the case, they should be informed.
So I think then, Taylor, can we go ahead and take D2 and D3 together? One is for real property and one is approval for the CF1 form for personal property.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take D2 and 3 together. And I would entertain a motion for
Can I
that.
ask a quick question
Oh,
first?
sorry, I thought we were done, Mr. Bates. Certainly.
How long is this abatement for? Anybody know? Is it a 10-year, 5-year?
I don't recall. I'd have to look it up.
Sure.
It's 10 years.
I think it was 10 years, if I remember
Have you
right.
been into it for what, 3 years or 4 or
No more than that.
more than that? Just a question. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Personal property abatement probably was not 10. Amy, do you know? I don't think it was less.
Here in the packet, right?
Yeah, it is.
7 will be the 6th year for the real and 3rd year for the personal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that help, Mr. Bates?
Yes, that's just a curious question.
Nope, that's a good one. And I'm a little lost here. Did I have a motion or did I?
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve item D2 and 3 as presented.
I have a motion from Pam Burton,
Second.
second by John Dittmers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. D2, same sort of item, approval of Form CF1. This is for real property. This is for Toppin Packaging USA Inc., formerly known as Sunoco Flexible Packaging Inc. I understand it was sold somewhere in the midst of this abatement process. Is anyone here from Toppin Packaging? Anyone online, Mr. West?
If they are, they're not.
Okay. Again, I would have felt more comfortable had someone been here that I could ask, on the record. Again, tonight, we are only approving the CF1 annual compliance form, which you do have in your packets. But I do want to just note for the record, it doesn't affect what we're approving tonight, but they are missing Form 322. They have been notified by the commissioner's office regarding that, and I just wanted to make a note of that for the record and for this council body. Again, tonight, though, we're only approving CF-1 annual compliance form.
Move to find him in compliance, Toppin in compliance. That's what is it? Other
D4.
business, D4.
I have a motion from John Dittmers,
Second.
second by John Mallers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. This is what I call the hard stuff. Next up is item E, old and new business. First thing we need to discuss as a council is the excise tax revenue. And if you all recall, a couple of weeks ago on a Wednesday, we heard from the county's fiscal advisor, Mike Reuter. And he talked about a new law from the state that allows the counties to post all their excise tax revenue to the general fund. Currently, any fund that receives property tax revenue also receives a portion of excise tax revenue. And I did send everyone an email with some bullet points on that. By moving money into the general fund, or we call that our operating fund, it is one of our most flexible funds. And so it would allow that money to be spent in more different ways. Some of the funds that it posts to are more restrictive. Does anyone have any research, any thoughts, any comments you'd like to add? We do need to decide tonight and take a vote if we choose to post excise tax revenue to the general fund. It should be noted that, this is something that can be changed and voted on annually. The reason we need to do it tonight is that it would allow Mike Reuter to adjust the fiscal plan when he gives, us our more updated information.
So Michelle, on that discussion with Mike, and he obviously speaks on a higher plane than I do as far as information,
Mm-hmm.
but I got the distinct impression, and Mike is just here to guide us and give us the information, but I also got the distinct impression that this would be in the best interest of the county.
And I can elaborate that on a bit. We did talk to him. One of the upsides to the county for moving this excise tax revenue into the general fund is that it'll help out that budget, that fund at budget time this year, because that budget is seriously in the red as it stands right now. But you have to remember, if we do decide to do this, it is just a temporary fix. It doesn't fix the structural problems that we have in the general fund at this time and the projected years moving forward. So I'll just throw that out there.
So if these excise funds go into county general, they can still be used for what they are currently being used for, even if they currently go to a different fund?
I'm gonna ask, Amy, could you maybe step to the podium and help answer that question? Because you understand how the funds fluctuate back and forth. Like, if we take that excise tax out of one fund, does that put that fund in a deficit?
Good.
It could, but not necessarily. It depends on how Mike updates his fiscal plan. He'll adjust it accordingly. But like one of the funds, for example, would be cum cap. So that fund is restrictive on what it could be used for. So it gets property tax because it has a tax rate. So the excise would no longer go in there. So by going to the general fund, it's more flexible to use that money.
And it could still be used on a cum cap related issue, even
It
if it's in the
could.
general fund. Okay, I'm sorry.
Just one question I thought of, Governor Braun extended the gas tax relief act. Is that where this excise revenue comes from, our gasoline tax that we pay?
No, it's when you plate your vehicles.
Yeah.
When you plate them? Okay, thank you for that, because I know that's going to affect highway. I didn't know if it would affect this revenue stream. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Do you see, Amy, before you go away, do you see, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time as well, but do you see, although it's not a fix to our long-term problems, do you see any reason why this would hinder the normal process? I know that we can change it each year. I know that we can make exceptions and make, if we needed to do things differently. I can find nothing that it does other than allow a lot of more flexibility with the funds.
That's correct.
So do you agree with that?
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a good point to make.
Michelle, to your point, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? I mean, it's a short term
Mhm.
because those funds are being used for something. There's a laundry list of whatever those uses
sir.
are. We don't have the information in front of us to see, okay, we're doing this
Mhm.
in favor of transferring those funds into the general to.
I think it might
But
give
the-
us the opportunity though, to, as that laundry list, and obviously it'll come back in front of us. But as that laundry, it gives us the opportunity maybe to look at that laundry list and see, okay, what's here, what's
Right.
here, what's here, and how to use it.
See, we have to act on a concept tonight, but we don't have the details to see what the impact is. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what I'm not sure of, I kind of think the answer is no. But it would be worth the ask if we decide tonight and vote to move all the excise into the general fund. And Mike Reuter runs the numbers with more accurate information. Once everything posts at the end of June, we'll have more firm numbers. And we don't like what we see with it all moved to the general fund. If we can then reverse that.
I think we asked that question.
I don't remember.
I think we asked that question. And I think the answer was yes, but I think he will know long before the end of June, before he gives us the final one.
Right.
Okay.
That's where I think the conversation went.
So to your question then, John, I think if we decide, yes, that's what we want to do as a group tonight, and it comes back completely wonky, we can walk it back.
I think we also need to know because we paid that out at settlement, which is end of June and end of December. So we're getting ready to do settlement next week. So we'll need to know.
How much is the excise tax? Sorry.
I don't know, but
It's in your fiscal plan.
So
Go
that-
ahead.
Always hire a bunch of different.
There it is.
We did talk.
She would find it.
We did, now that you say that, we did talk about the decision having to be made tonight.
We did. It had to be tonight.
Because
You're right.
because the funds needed to be accounted for at the end of June. So if we decide tonight, if it's voted on and we decide to transfer that into the general fund, that will take care of your needs for settlement?
yes. Also, at our auditors conference a couple weeks ago, the DLGF said if you, or the State Board of Accounts, one of them, said, if you don't put it in the general fund, if you put it elsewhere or cherry pick it, you have to have an ordinance or something in writing as
Say
to why
Yeah, he did
it's
say
not
that as well.
into the general fund.
Yeah.
You or him one in that meeting said that as well. I remember that.
But if we approve it and the funds are spoken for, then the notion of walking it back is not an option.
I think you're correct.
As far as being a zero deal, I think using the money for other things is still available.
Right, yeah, being in the county
I agree
general.
with that.
Yeah.
In the excise tax in Cume Cap is like 280 to 300,000 a year. Like actually goes down, it's going down, but right now it's about 300,000.
That and the other big one is the general obligation bond, the GO bond. I think
Okay.
it's like 300,000, but don't quote me.
We got it close.
So
Yeah, you're right.
what do y'all think? I guess I would need a motion to move the excise tax revenue to the general fund for the year 2026.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Ron Bates,
I'll second it.
second by Pamela Burton. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Why not make a decision on less than sufficient information? What have you done with the record? Not benefits.
Now comes the really fun part.
No.
Item E2, discussion regarding the 2027 budgets. The only thing that we have to set tonight are our budget dates, our budget hearing dates, and decide whether we're going to hold budget workshops or not. Other than that, everything else can be a discussion. Everyone goes home and does some more homework and research. And then we have to have our budget guidelines adopted and finalized by our next meeting in July. So with that, I would like to start with the dates for budget guidelines. And I've worked with council's assistant, and these are the dates that we are working with upon approval. July 13th, 2026, budget guidelines approved at council's regular meeting. July 27th, 2026, budgets due to the auditor's office. September 8th and September 10th, that's a Tuesday and Thursday, we hold first reading, so you're here all day those days.
September 8th and 10th.
September 8th and 10th for first reading, and those take pretty much all day.
Are we starting at 8:30 or 8 or 9?
What have we started in the past, Amy? Do you remember? 8:30? Thank you. September 17th, all day for second reading. And then October 12th, 2026, we adopt the budget at council's regular meeting.
October when?
October the 12th at our regular meeting. So unless there are just earthquakes and volcanoes against these dates, I would entertain do I need a motion for that? Yeah, let's go ahead and do one just in case.
9/17 will also be where, findings.
Oh, the binding units on 9/17. Did everyone get that? That's gonna be a long day.
Will you send this information out once we vote on it? Mrs.
Yes,
Ruth Ross?
yes, ma'am, absolutely. So with that, with those dates, if you need me to read them again, I will. I will send an email confirming, but I would entertain a motion if everyone is so willing.
Move to approve the dates presented for the budget process.
Second.
I have a motion from John Dittmers, a second by John Mallers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The second item that we need to decide tonight is the subject of budget workshops. I know in 2024 was when I was on the other side of this council. We had the council entertained budget workshops. In 2025, the group decided not to hold budget workshops. So I kind of need to take the temperature. Did you guys like them? Did you want them again? Do you not want them? We need to decide on that, and then I do have some dates that we could possibly use for those workshops.
I support a budget workshops. I wanted them last year, but we didn't have them. I think it's good to talk out these issues and get a meeting of the minds before going into the formal process. And so there's no surprises. So I just think it's better for everybody.
One additional question with that, Melinda, do you prefer the format of a majority of the council members? It's a public hearing, or should it be more schedule a time and meet with 2 or 3?
No, I think it should be, but for the sake of transparency, I think we need to make it public.
A public, okay, so you're yes if it's a public.
I think we talked about that. Someone talked about it. I don't remember who. But that's technically called a first, second, and third reading.
Okay.
And you make it public. So, and I'm not saying that that's not, I mean, you're the legal, but when you make it a public meeting, and just like we are now, now you've moved from first, second, and adoption to first, second, third adopt. You're just adding another day to budget hearings, which I'm okay with that. If that's what everybody wants to do. I was part of the initial, and when you were on the other side, is here of the meetings. And it was the first year that I participated. And this is just my opinion, but I'm not so sure it didn't wreak more havoc than it in trying to do it one-on-one in back here in scheduled meetings, because the following year, when you were on this side of the table, we put in well over double the hours in talking with people and meeting with people one-on-one, as opposed to having the hearings or having the public meetings or having them scheduled. So, and I'm only one of 7. My vote will be that everyone steps, or my suggestion would be everyone steps up, does their own individual budget
Liaisons.
hearing meetings with your departments. You be familiar with what they want. And if there's any problems or issues at that point, bring it to the council in a public meeting, that first meeting or whenever.
First year.
I just think we will move it along, because you get the private meetings, assuming you don't have add an additional day of budget,
Mhm.
then the way it seemed to work, if you did something for this person, then this department talked to that department, and they came back with a different, and it just got, in my opinion, got out of hand really fast.
Okay.
So I know, we being Michelle and I dedicated days after days after days of being in this courthouse last year, meeting with people. So I'm willing to do it this year, and I'm hoping that everyone else can step up and do it as well to make it not so hard on two people. So,
Okay.
but I'll do whatever the majority of the board wants to do. I'm good either way.
You know, I've got an opinion on this, believe it or not. I see our elected officials and our department heads who are responsible for putting these budgets together as kind of our internal customers, just like the taxpayers are our customers. What do they want? Would they like to see a consistent message, or would they prefer to see this one-on-one as liaisons? Because I almost think there's the benefit of hearing a consistent message, particularly given some of the financial turmoil we anticipate. Kind of makes some sense to try to get everybody dialed into what we're trying to accomplish.
So at our July meeting, we will set the guidelines. The workshops would happen after the guidelines are set. So I guess the question on the table is, do you want to hold the workshops in addition to first and second reading?
And I agree with you, John, but I think if the guidelines this year are set plain and clear, and we abide by those guidelines that we set, I think hopefully everyone will be on the same page or close to it. I don't know. You know, it's their job as a department head to prepare their budget and tell us what they need and what they want. And then it's our job to give them what the taxpayers can afford and what we feel as a body we can pay for. So you're absolutely right in the process on how, I agree with you completely.
I could be wrong, but my interpretation of the last 2 years was last year when you guys did all that work, I think it was much more effective. I know it wasn't necessarily easy on you guys, and it was a lot of more work. I think in the public, and I plan to be a part of it, by the way, so it's not gonna be the public, in the public realm, I don't think you're gonna get the detail and the information that you guys got.
The nitty gritty.
The nitty-gritty details. I mean, you guys, it was unbelievable the amount of additional details we had last year that I've never seen before. I think that's what's needed this year. I think, and so I would rather it be that way, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4, all of us, however it is. But it can't be 3. It could be 3.
Yeah.
That's it.
As long as you're not just, no,
But people doing their, I did liaison work, and that was just, it was actually eye-opening to me to get that additional information that I got as well. It was, it's a lot of work, but it was much better, I think, as far as the information we received.
it'd probably have to be done 2-on-2 on it.
You could do 3.
Can you do 3 if you're
It just
discussing an
can't be a
item that's gonna be voted
majority
on?
of 4 would push you over the edge,
Yeah.
but I think
That's
if you push it out to July, like making this decision until July too, you're kind of running into a time constraint. You've got your meeting on July 13th, and then budgets are due on the 27th. So we'd have
2
to,
weeks.
right, to advertise and fit in an additional meeting.
Yeah. Plus there's
To
that
hold
problem.
the workshops too, so. it's another
Jonathan
thing to
T.
consider.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Taylor. I didn't mean to speak over you. Jonathan T, any thoughts on budget hearings? You want them? You don't want them?
No opinion.
No opinion?
That's safe.
Yeah.
I've seen it done both ways and it doesn't work.
Okay. Mr. Bates,
I like a formatting from last year.
you like the
It's short and
format?
simple.
Okay.
So Ron Bates is a no.
John, I agree with what you said. It's a form of what we're talking about. My only ask would be that we have a defined protocol on how we're gonna do it, so we can touch all the bases and
I
not
agree.
do this and say, y'all get this done. And then some of us do, some of us don't, and then
Right.
we've got that inconsistency. My thing's is consistency.
Oh, I understand,
message.
and if we set our dictates and what we are looking for ahead of time so that everyone's clear. I agree.
I have a thought to add. See what y'all think of this. So we're going to give our budget guidelines out at our July meeting, July 13th. That gives our departments and offices 2 weeks to prepare their budgets and get them submitted to the auditor's office. What if, with the help of a couple people, we'll have our guidelines. What if, with the help of a couple people, I provide what's the word I'm looking for? A template of questions. Not saying these are the only questions you can ask, but just saying this is a guideline, some questions to ask your departments and offices. But that being said, every one of us seven have to be responsible for their offices and departments.
The only issue I have is that, again, it comes back to, I mean, last year, the budget hearing was so regimented and it was so black and white and it was so cut and dry with no allowances anywhere that it actually surprised me to hear you say that you spent so much time on it when it was just so black and white. I kind of feel like, for the sake of the public to understand, the public doesn't always understand what these individual departments, what their challenges are. And by keeping it private, we're preventing the public from understanding, or at least having the option to learn more about their government, their local government, and the challenges of each department. I think provides transparency, and it makes the public aware that sometimes exceptions have to be made for certain circumstances. So I prefer it to be public, and we can be given assignments, but we can ask each department to answer the same questions. But if you want more participation, I mean, is this going to be more cut and dry like it was last year with no leniency or variances? If that's the case, then I guess it's just, what am I saying here? I just think that it doesn't have to be that hard if it's going to be cut and dry.
Is everyone, I'm just going to finish with, do we take a motion? Is that what you want, Mr.
Yeah.
President? Okay. I'm gonna make a motion that we do not have an additional budget day, that we keep it based what we did last year. And just for the record, after what was said a minute ago, I did keep track of hours last year. And Michelle and I combined have over 300 hours that we based meeting with people in meetings and on budget. And I have that documented. So it was not an easy task. It was very difficult and very time consuming. So just for the record, there were lots of hours, and I think there are some that can vouch for that.
Second.
I would add to that it's only easy if you did not participate, and that's all I have to say about that. I have a motion by Pam Burton to not hold budget hearings, and I have a second.
No, not to not hold budget hearings.
Sorry, budget.
We have to have budget hearings.
Budget workshops.
I have a motion by Pam Burton not to hold formal budget workshops.
I'll make a motion for the budget.
You can't, there's a motion on the table.
Okay, well, when
You'll
you're
have to wait.
done,
Okay, you'll have to wait. So according to Robert's rules, we have a motion on the floor by Pam Burton. Ron Bates, I know you seconded that, but I misspoke. The motion is not to hold formal budget hearings. Do you still second?
No.
Dang it, I did it
No.
twice in a row. Not to hold formal budget workshops. Do you still want to second that motion? I am so sorry, everyone. It has been a very long day that started at 9. I have a motion from Pam Burton, second by Ron Bates. Any further discussion?
I really like your first motion before.
Easy, right? Um. Hearing none, Amy, let's take a roll call vote on this one, please.
Dr. Myers,
Aye.
Linda Reese-Smith,
Nay, I'm gonna do a second motion.
Don Myers,
Aye.
Shelley Graves,
Aye.
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 Motion passes 6-1. So now, I sent everyone an email,
We move on. I've got a question.
okay?
Back to the point of having some sort of defined protocol on what we're gonna do if we're not going to do the public side. What's that gonna look like? We probably all know that.
Well, that's good. You didn't ask me, I'm sorry.
If anybody wants to answer.
Okay, well, as president, I am happy to take the lead on that. I can send out some suggestions. But because this body voted, with the exception of one, to not hold formal budget workshops, that's gonna be up to each and every one of you to do your own work and make your own decisions and you can contact even people that aren't your liaisons.
So that's a little inconsistent with what we talked about a minute ago, and we could have 2 or 3 meet.
You
with
can do
different
that.
ones.
You can do that, you can
Right.
organize that and you can do that.
But is it?
If you want, I can lead that, I can send out
I'm just
suggestions.
saying, it feels like a little bit of the Wild West if we don't have some sort of defined, here's what we're gonna do to communicate with the people.
That's why I was wanting something more defined versus just a couple of people going behind the scenes and talking to various people individually. And
The
we're
emails,
all left in the dark unless we go seek out our own
yeah, the email,
conversation.
the emails that have been sent regarding budget has been asking everybody to think about, written job descriptions,
Yeah.
the things that the department should explain, the reasons for their payments. There's a whole list of items that we had put together to talk to each department about, and I'm sure Michelle will be happy to share that, but a lot of that's gonna be based on the guidelines and what the guidelines require, and then the relationship you have, or even what the individual, when you say individual department wants to do, Michelle,
Yeah.
some of them may not want to talk to us at all.
Well, that's how we did with the first workshop when it was public. They came in, the department heads came in, those who wanted to talk to us. They all weren't required to come. And we did get people coming in. So, I mean, I don't think it should be a requirement, but I just believe in transparency because I feel like too many back behind the scenes conversations occur. And it can lead to questionable things. And I believe in transparency. And when everything is open, then no one has any doubts.
Yeah, but their budget submissions are gonna be open. There's gonna be a first reading and a second reading, and that's gonna all get hashed out those
Yeah,
times.
that's my
Exactly.
point exactly. All that information can be asked and shared at first reading. That's why it's advertised and it's a public hearing. It's just, how much work do you want to put in with your departments and offices prior to that first reading? We've decided as a body, we don't want to hold a formal budget workshop to do that. That's up to the individuals up here to decide how much they're willing to invest in this project. But all the discussions and questions can be and should be reiterated at the microphone at first and second readings. Yes, John?
Yeah, so I agree. I agree in what everyone has said up here. I don't have any dispute for what, and I'm being safe, John, but the Declaration of Independence wasn't. Could you imagine if every one of those people had a say in how that was written? And it's kind of what we're going to be doing is when we go out and talk with these people individual, Who knows? We might get an idea from them. We might be the ones that are getting the education.
Right.
So I think it both works, but the thing is, we can't make any decisions. And they need to understand that we operate as a 7-member council. And so any decision, and just as you said, Michelle, it comes up here with a vote. And so it's very difficult. You know, I would really like to get together dinners and have these discussions. I think there'd be much gained by that if you didn't make a decision, but we can't do it. So that's where we are.
Okay. How about we're gonna move on from formal budget workshop talks because that's been voted on. We can share ideas back and forth through emails. John Dittmers, I am welcome to any suggestions you want to share with the group on how we move forward once we have our guidelines set, how we, communicate individually with these departments and offices. And again, to Melinda's point, everything should be reiterated and asked and answered at that podium in the public meeting at first reading, so there is no perception of backroom deals behind closed doors. So I would like to move on just to kind of get everyone thinking, get some guidance here on how y'all want to proceed. So we do know that the county is spending faster than recurring revenue is growing. Everyone has had the opportunity to review the fiscal plan from Mike Reuter, and there's no hiding at the fact that the majority of our funds go into the red for next year and several years thereafter. I know Pam did some research and we did some discussion. A lot of the main factors driving this imbalance are wages, health insurance, perf, staffing levels, and public safety operating costs. They're the majority of our staff and they're the majority of the work that this county does. So those are the main factors driving the imbalance.
What did Mike have to say? What was his biggest concern when you guys talked to him?
911 fund.
911.
That's what I took away from it. Pam, how about you?
Yeah.
And how about the general fund? I mean, did he talk about the general fund at all?
That's the verbiage you kept using. You're in great shape. You're in great shape. Correct, Michelle?
If you dip into your cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fix the structural problem. So that was my next question. How, with this group, just kind of a consensus real quick, how much do you want to focus on repairing these structural problems in the budget? I mean, we can move the excise, we can dip into cash to balance, which to me is not balancing, but we can dip into cash to pay the bills, or, which essentially kicks the can down the road, or we focus on the structural problems for the 2027 budget cycle. What are your thoughts on that, John?
I would really, so let's write down the things that we've been approached on. We've been approached about fire stations. What else?
911,
911,
travel,
911, what else?
travel expenditures.
Travel expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also we've got a problem with property taxes. And I think that everybody, the government that is above us ask us to solve this issue, really. They cut it, but they put the burden on us to figure out what to do about it. And so I think that I'd like to see us discuss a relief for the taxpayers or for the property owners, the property tax. I think if we could give them a relief of, like in the separate brackets, the 3%, the 2%, 1%. If we gave the homeowners like a 5% credit, the farms and others give them a 3% credit, and then give the industry level, which is the 3%, give them a 1% credit. And then we would backfill that with a lit that would equate to the amount that we're pulling out or losing from the revenue for giving them a credit. And then along with that, if we did like kind of a hybrid to take care of these public safety issues with the public safety lit, if we could do some kind of hybrid lit that would take care of all that, that would in effect really kind of level the playing field. But what we'd be doing is taking our burden away from the general fund. We're taking burden away from the taxpayers, or I'm sorry, the property owners, and we're putting it into a lit that where everybody in the county is paying, just not, property owners. I just think it's a better way. And I think if we can get public safety out of the general fund, that would be a big deal. So this is something I'm just throwing out there to start the discussion.
Question for you, John, because I don't know the answer. What you described to me sounds a lot like what SEA 1 is going to accomplish. They're just rolling it out slower. Do you know, do we have the statutory authority to make these changes to property tax?
Yes. There is a lit that is called a relief lit.
But okay, so that would be voting in a new tax, but can this body,
Actually, it's voting in a new relief.
can this body lower property taxes though? That's what I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think we can.
We're not lowering property taxes. We're giving a relief.
It's like a
And that can be
replacement credit.
done.
A
that can-
replacement credit, we can do that? Okay,
Yeah, we can do that.
I
It
didn't
would-
know.
And it wouldn't be in the form of, what I want to say, how is it normally done where you take what's it called when you're given a homestead credit or something like that? That's a statutory thing and it comes out, but this would be something that the auditor could do, and working with the treasurer and all that is
Okay,
but I don't know the numbers, my mind is just, I get lost when I start adjusting these numbers and everything, and I'm getting down. So we can only go to 2.5%. It used to be 2.9.
oh, on lit 2.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can go to 2.5. And even if we did like 1.1 or so that our total is 2.5 or whatever, it would be significant. And it would backfill what these SEA 1 is doing. And I think what SEA wanted to accomplish was to give property tax relief, only it's just not doing it.
Right.
And I think we can show them how to do it.
Do you want to run those numbers and bring it back?
Sure.
I think everyone would like to hear more about that. I just don't have a lot of information on that topic to contribute tonight.
Yeah, neither do I, and it's gonna take somebody better than me to look at the numbers and be able to balance, what the least impact is. And I think that's the way we need to look at that is we just don't want any impact. But we want to shift away from the property taxes. And I think that something like this I'm just throwing this out there so that, we can have a discussion.
Yeah. If you want to take the lead on that, I think that is a discussion well spent.
Congratulations, it's your project.
Well, I'm gonna admit I'm totally lost.
Well,
So
that's
I look forward to you coming back and being able to explain it more to me, so I apologize.
No, that's where I live.
Well, I know, I think I'm fiscally conservative and I think it's time to fix the structural problems, either the way John suggested with more information, if that's possible. Or we in this group have a bad year where we have to make some pretty tough decisions. But that's where I stand on that. Any other comment on fixing
It's nice,
structural problems?
it's nice to have the cash available. It's not invalid or wrong to use it when you need to, but you're right, we've got to get the structural
Okay.
deficit fixed.
I just.
Because that balance will go away very quickly.
Right, we're putting a lot of strain and stress on future council
Right.
and future, a lot of responsibility on taxpayers in the future by the decisions we make today.
I did want to, and I will take the lead on this. I'm gonna talk to the commissioners and see if there's any way insurance premiums, are a big part of our budget. And I'd like to see if there's any way we can get those premiums down without having employees pay more out of pocket. That always seems to be the cause and effect. If we get a lower premium, it's because the employees are paying more. And so that's not really a win-win when the employees aren't getting cost of living adjustments that keep up with the economy. So I am going to take the lead on that one.
Well, my concern
Report
about
back.
that, my concern about changing or finding a way that the premiums aren't so much as basically you're changing the health insurance plan that's being offered. It's to reduce the premiums, you're going to be reducing the health benefit. So the quality of the health insurance plan is not going to be as astute.
Just a question I'm going to pose. Perhaps there's a new insurance company we could switch to with similar benefits and lower costs. I don't know. It's out of my lane. I'm just
They
going to
have a
ask.
company, they have a company that the county works with, and they take our insurance assuming it's still done this way. They take our insurance to what they call market. And they take what we have and they put it out there to I'm gonna say the top 5. And say, this is what we've got, this is what our people are paying, this is what we're paying. Here's the claims we had last year. Here's what we project for now. Here's a lot of data goes into that. And then those companies actually go through a bid process on what they can do and perform. But I've never known the county to go with anybody except the big 5, which they should to protect their people. But it's been a long time since I've bought, and Ron West is the expert on this, but they have a committee and they have a company that takes it to market every year to make sure we get the biggest bang for the buck. So that's something I'm sure he would be glad to share with you.
I'll say, how about I check in with him to see if there's going to be any relief coming for 2027. How about that?
Not to go deep into it, but aren't we self-insured? I know there's stop loss insurance. That's what I meant, self-funded. Well, I guess it's kind of thought it meant the same thing, now that you think about it.
It's a little of both.
We have UMR now, last year we had Anthem, they process, we don't process it, just fund.
Well, okay, but that's the issue is the cost though, right?
So I have
And
a
what they will
question,
cover.
since we're talking about funding, the lit for correctional facilities, is it gone or did it parlay forward or where is it?
No, it's still around.
Well, correctional facilities lit.
Yeah. The building was paid off after it was finished.
I thought that it
And
ended in
the
December,
funds are still there.
but I thought that our payments ended in December. Or January 1. And that's a question I have for,
We didn't pass anything to reverse it. It's still there.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
How much is in it?
Oh, okay. So what's the balance?
And when did we stop making the payment? So if we've stopped paying the payments and we're still getting revenue in, can we move that to a public safety lit?
Do you want to email me after? And then we can kind of get all of your questions answered as it relates to like the specific lit things, kind of a different conversation kind of from the actual budget guidelines that we're giving to the
Correct.
departments. But I'm happy to work with you to make sure that we get all of those questions answered because it's important stuff to make sure that you're as well informed as possible to make the decisions that you need to make.
And if there is balance there, I'll ask questions. Can we move it to general fund?
I got you. Yeah, we'll chat.
I'm gonna go right to.
So that's good. So you're going to follow up with, so if we could just for the sake of time, or there's so many bullet points we do need to think about, just to keep this moving forward. Maybe we do just, stay focused on our actual guidelines for the departments and offices tonight, and then continue these questions, for everyone. Cost of living, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I know in Mike Reuter's figures, he used assumption of 5%, and you saw what that did to the budget that took them all into the red. I know when Pam and I talked to him the other day with all his questions, he did show us numbers at 3%. And I sent y'all an email about that. Still puts the funds into the red. So that's just something to consider that we need to decide on at our next meeting. 5%, 3%, if any. And in that same line of thought, I know from discussions from last year, several members on council had an aversion to a set percentage rate for every employee. They were more inclined to favor a flat dollar amount. I remember this discussion saying percentages for COLAs are problematic because it moves groups further away from each other. What's the temperature tonight? Is everyone want to go with what we've done traditionally with a percentage rate? We just don't know what the rate is yet. Or are you more inclined to entertain a cost of living if available as a flat number? John,
Yeah.
number or interest rate or percentage?
Well, I like it graduated because I think we need to take care of our people that are the lowest paid. Make sure they're keeping up with
We did that.
the cost of living. And so, you start with that group and then you work from there with a graduated,
Percentage or flat dollar amount?
I say percentage, but an adjusted percentage.
Because you
Right.
could do a flat dollar amount and have it different for each job classification
Yeah,
and address some of those lower groups that way.
And the salary study, didn't we last year in one fell swoop pretty much bring everybody
Yeah, that's what I
to the
thought.
internal midpoint? So we should not have anybody in this county working below
okay.
where they need to be.
It's your suggestion.
Mine? Well, my suggestion or my thoughts were, I'm leery to say it. I don't think we should go with the percentage because I think that gets the higher paid people a higher raise, the lower paid people a lower raise. I think a cost of living increase based on what word am I looking for?
Job
The
classification.
job classification, and we won't know that figure until we get at the end of the budget cycle. It's kind of like what we did last year. To me, I think that still compensates at or above the cost of living. Most places that I've looked into for this year that are undergoing the same thing we are giving zero.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
What's the state doing this year?
Nothing. 2 years in a row.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So
Stipend? Are you guys getting a stipend
No.
this year?
anything that we do as a council, I think is going to, I'm sure everyone will be very, very thankful for, because most people are doing nothing with the situation like it is. So without running all the numbers, and I have run some of them, I think it would be more cost efficient. I think that the employees would benefit more with the flat rate after the budget's met.
A dollar amount
A
versus
dollar
No.
amount.
based on job classification
Right.
versus a flat percentage.
Right.
I
I
think
think that fixes what you were talking about, John.
And then do you present that in the form of a stipend?
You know, we'll get in the weeds on that. There's different ways to do it, but that wouldn't be something we need to decide right now. I think just that we were gonna do it and that it would be a flat rate for the categories.
I don't like the idea of a stipend, John, because a stipend is a one-time fee and it doesn't carry over to the next year. We want to, if we're trying to show value to that our employees are valuable to us, we shouldn't make it a stipend. So that way it will continue with them.
I agree with you. I wasn't presenting a stipend as a that I was in favor of it. I just thought that it was a solution in the past for some.
It was.
John, I thought you had something.
I did. I like Pam's idea. I just think it needs to be limited based on our structural problems.
Okay.
And I think that our structural amounts need to factor into it.
Do we know what the structural problems are?
Yes. Well, we know what the dollar amounts are.
Can that be shared with us?
It's in that fiscal plan.
Yeah, it's in the fiscal plan.
Oh. Well, I thought maybe there had been other discussion.
No,
No,
Okay.
pretty much any fund that runs into the red has a structural problem.
Okay.
It's spending more than it's taking in. John Dittmers, are you in favor of a dollar amount per job classification or a flat percentage? If we can do COLAs.
I'm gonna say I'm indifferent right now. So I think the amount's gonna be somewhat immaterial because I'm not sure where our raises are gonna be in the first place as we address the structural issues we're talking about. So to me, I'm not, I think my term indifferent is appropriate because of that.
Mr. Bates?
I would say that I'm more in favor of a dollar amount. Like Counselor Burton is, if we try to do otherwise, those are at the top of the compensation chain. They would get more. Those who underneath at the bottom of the chain would get less. So
Okay.
something that would get the same for everyone, I
Ha-
think is the best, or to me, it's the most fair way to.
and it keeps, I mean, just talking out loud here, it keeps that job study and being paid, the like jobs being paid alike in the same categories. It keeps that running consistent.
You know,
I am in agreement with all of this. I'm also in agreement with Melinda that stipends aren't the way to go. If we can afford a COLA, I'd like for it to be based on, applied to the base salary. I am in favor of a dollar amount by job classification. So for us, in order for us to have a productive discussion next month and to make a final decision, I'm going to assume, based on our structural problems in the discussion, that a 5% COLA is off the table. That if we can handle it, a 3% COLA is more in favor. And what I can do is take those numbers and come up with a dollar amount per job classification and send that information all out to you in an email for you to start to consider. And please, by all means, do your own research as well. But I'm not going to spend my time on the 5% because I think that's a non-starter for this group. I will spend time using a 3% rate calculation and see how we can divide that number by job classification and send that out so we can consider that. The next thing I'd like to discuss is longevity pay. I am have always been a big proponent, if you guys will let me speak first on this one subject. I've been a big proponent of longevity pay. I think it goes hand in hand with our salary study that we did with equal pay for equal work. It was kind of like a 1-2 process. Last year was the salary study. This year, my hopes would have been to do the longevity pay, but given the negative outlook in our fiscal plan, for me, longevity pay is a non-starter this year. If I had to choose between the longevity pay and some sort of COLA, I'm going to go with a COLA. And I just wanted to throw that out there. How does everyone else feel about longevity pay this year?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the money's there.
I don't either. I really don't. Anybody else think the money's there for longevity pay?
I've always been a supporter of it. And I think I even brought two or 3 years ago, even brought a plan to the table
Yeah.
Longevity pay does reward years of service, but in the situation that we're in now, it does not address problems that we have as far as fixing our structure.
Yeah. I agree.
And it also, you know, if you think about it, longevity pay really has nothing to do with market competitiveness, recruitment challenges, or compensation inequities, because we have dealt with all of that by itself.
Yeah.
So, for those reasons, I'm just convinced at this point that establishing a permanent countywide longevity program is not the most prudent or sustainable use of our available funds at this time.
I think we're all pretty much in agreement with that. And you know, all of this can be changed at our July meeting. This just kind of gets us a plan to be prepared to make that final decision in a month from now. New position hires for 2027. You know, last year we had a hiring freeze. I have heard some chatter and discussion this year after the fiscal plan was presented of a hard freeze of all new positions for 2027, and that includes public safety. The only exception for the freeze that people are talking about would be statutory staffing requirements, which we have to do because it's law. So what is the temperature up here among the group for a hiring freeze for 2027?
I don't think we should be making that decision. I think that's up to the elected officials.
Okay, Melinda?
Well, in response to John, even if no elected official department head wants to hire, they still have to take it before us. So looking at our numbers, I think we have to remain with the same policy as last year regarding hiring, unless it's statutory requirement and unless it's a replacement for law enforcement.
John Mallers?
Yeah, I agree with what Melinda said. I guess I don't know fully how hard the freeze needs to be yet. I'd like to get an idea of what we're gonna do as far as raises, if any, and then what it looks like, but possibly, yeah.
Miss Burton?
Definitely after running the numbers and talking with Mike and other counties and things, I'm definitely in support of a hard freeze for 2027, and the only exception being for statutory positions that are required to be filled.
Mr. Dittmers?
I'd be in favor of a freeze, and I would also be in favor of replacements, but the case has to be made as to the need, and it better be a good story.
I think that's the
I think
hard.
that's kind of what it is at the state now.
Yeah.
We had a hard freeze and now it's thawing a little, but it's very tough.
Mr. Bates?
By the time it gets to me, everybody's already given. Yeah, I agree with what everybody has said, except, you know, Counselor here, Dittmers talked about, obviously, if somebody retires, you know, to get that replacement.
So you would just be in favor of new hire freezes?
Yes.
I'll trade you places. I'll sit down there. Leading this discussion is not fun. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to discuss tonight, except for the Johnson County pay philosophy. Second to last thing to discuss tonight is then, I know the state last year implemented a natural employee attrition policy, and I'm gonna ask John, kind of put him on the spot here, if he remembers much about it. But what the state did last year was to reduce staffing levels without laying people off. If someone retired or if they left, those positions just weren't refilled. I don't know anything about it. I'm just throwing it out there as something for this group to consider because the state did it last year. John, can you share any insight on what that looked like or how it worked?
Like we talked earlier, I was more familiar with that during COVID or after COVID. They definitely pushed a lot of people out by cutting off the remote work, and that worked for their purposes it cut the agency I work for cut it by a third.
Mhm.
And they just didn't replace those people. And quite frankly, a lot of the duties that the agency did, which were over and above what their statutory duties were, for lack of a better phrase, we just stopped doing. So, that was, I don't know how that works at the county level,
I don't
but that's kind of what we did at the state level, at least with my agency. So, I haven't noticed it as much lately. Like I said, it's a little bit thawed a little bit, and we were able to replace some people here and there, but it's not like it was by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, just something for the group to think about, and any research or information you have between now and next meeting, shoot an email out to all the groups, so you know, the discussion, the guidelines will get presented fairly efficiently next month. Last thing I did want to talk about tonight is our Johnson County pay philosophy. I sent an email to everyone last week. Do y'all like it? Do you want to adopt it for this year? We don't have to do it tonight. It's just a discussion. I did think of one additional item I would like to add to our pay philosophy for 2027. Is that this year we provide salary ranges for each job classification.
We could get that straight off the
Right off the, salary study.
salary study.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
wise.
Yeah, I like
Sound
that.
good?
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will add that to it, send it out for y'all to look at, and then we'll vote on that at July meeting too as well, okay? Any suggestions or thought you have on that between now and next couple weeks, just shoot me an email and we'll include that in our discussion. Does anyone have any other items regarding the guidance for budgets? The guidelines for budgets that they want to bring up tonight, discuss, debate, kick around?
Everyone, I would like to see everyone's ideas on the guidelines, rather than taking what we had last year and inserting new dates and follow this. And in the past, it's always said, well, you know, that's just a suggestion. No, I don't think it needs to be a suggestion. I think we need some real honest to goodness, tick off the boxes guidelines. So I'm open if anybody wants to email anything that they're, you know, any suggestions that they have.
You asking the group up here to
Yes.
email or
No.
the group up here? Yeah, does everyone want to start sharing ideas and thoughts for budget guidelines? That'd be great. That is it. That is all I have. I am out of steam. The coffee has worn off.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn from John Mallers.
Second.
Second from Ron Bates. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for staying.